Welcome back to another episode of Long Range Shooters of Utah. Today we're going to be covering one of the stages of the January 2019 Course of Fire for the National Rifle League's 22 series. If you're interested in attending a match like this in your area or even starting your own, please visit NRL22.org. Now this particular stage is one of my absolute favorites from this month's Course of Fire. It offered 2 different barricades, 4 different shooting positions, and 3 different targets to choose from at a distance of 100 yards. Each shooter was given 120 seconds to engage their targets, and they had to choose which target they wanted to engage to earn a certain number of points. In this case, we had a 4-inch target, a 3-inch target, and a 2-inch target. The 4-inch was worth 5 points, 3-inch was worth 7 points, and the 2-inch was worth 10 points. As you can see here, I'm starting on top of the chair. I engaged my first shot at the small target. I was a little overconfident and I missed. I then called out that I wanted to transition to the medium target. I shot and I hit. I put my gun on safe. I transitioned to the seat of the chair and I gauged the medium target with 2 shots. As you're watching the video, I want you to pay close attention to the different ways in which the shooters position their bodies. You'll notice here that I've chose to kind of squat down on both knees and rest my elbow on my knee to try to get the proper height and a good solid bone structure underneath the rear of the rifle for that particular height of the barricade. Now over on the top of this barricade, I'm relying a lot on that Saracen bag by Warhorse Development to really balance the rifle right in the center. One of the beautiful things about the Kid Super Grade is there's no magazine that sticks down, so you can really put the bag right in the middle of the rifle. I've also taken and raised up my right knee. I've kept my foot nice and flat, and I'm resting my elbow as much as I can on that knee to try to rely on my bones and not my muscles to support the rear of the rifle and create a steady rest. Of course, now I'm transitioning down to the lower level here. As I watch the other competitors after the fact, I wish I would have followed their cues on this. But you can see here I'm using my elbows. I'm creating kind of a triangle sort of thing. A pretty decent structure in the back. It gives me great support. Being so low to the ground, I'm able to make some good clean shots on that small target. If I had to do it over again, I probably would have put the bag on the front of the barricade and then used the rear rest on the barricade for the rear of the rifle, or put my rifle right on the barricade and a bag in the back. Let's talk about Kevin here. So this is actually his first match ever in NRL22. He's got a little bit of PRS experience, but man, he did phenomenal with a 9th place finish. Now watch how he's doing this first barricade. He's really just kind of hovering and relying on his back muscles to keep him stable, which can work, but is oftentimes not the best idea because your back muscles start getting tight and tired, and then you're going to start to shake. Now when he moves to this lower portion, you'll notice here that he's once again kind of relying on that back muscle. He's stretching out the back, trying to get as low as possible, and he's not getting quite the result he wants, so he brings his leg in, rests his elbow on the leg, and that gives him a lot more stability. As you can see here, it works out well for him. Now as he transitions over to the other barricade, I want you to take note that he's once again kind of doing the same thing. His first go-to is to rely on his back and just kind of the balance of the rifle to hold it steady, and soon enough he's going to look through the optic and go, wow, this is bouncing around a lot more than I want it to. What can I do to make this more stable? And what he's going to do is do the right thing by bringing his right knee up and putting it underneath his elbow. But there's one thing that he could have done maybe a little bit better, and that is when you see him bring his foot up, you'll notice that it's not flat on the ground, right? And what he's doing there is he's trying to compensate for the elevation, right? He's using that foot to pick up and get a higher elevation. If he brought that foot forward and put it underneath his knee, he'd have that additional elevation, and he wouldn't be using any muscles, which can get tired and start to bounce in order to get that elevation. So ideally, if you can keep that foot flat, keep the knee above the foot, that's the best way to go. Now right here, he actually does a way better job than I did because he uses the rear of the barricade to support the rear of the rifle and a bag at the front, which is a genius idea. He did absolutely incredible for his first match, 9th place, just amazing. Alright, let's take a look at Greg here. So you notice that Greg is sitting on his foot, and he's got the leg just kind of laying out there. And the problem with this position is really you're kind of turning yourself into a teeter-totter. You're putting this one small point of contact under the center of your mass, and you've got one little leg out there kind of providing a little bit of stability, kind of like an outrigger on a little boat. But really what he's going to find out here is it doesn't give him the ability to move around very effectively, and it definitely doesn't give him a lot of stability. He's really relying only on muscle and balance to keep him in position. And then of course he had a little struggle here. He neglected to take his bipod off and didn't realize that his rifle wouldn't fit there. So that's going to cost him some time and some frustration. I think he would have done even better in the match. He was absolutely killing it until this stage and then had that kind of struggle there. So now he's seated, he's got his knees on his legs, he's got bone-on-bone structure, and he's got a nice solid rest in the back, and we know he's got an extremely accurate rifle, so he's going to shoot really well here. So he's going for a small one, trying to recoup some points. I think a lot of this is just kind of being flustered. It happens. Once again, notice he's taking this sit on the foot and tuck the leg out there, and it's just not a real stable type position. I think, watching this, he's going to say to himself, yeah, I probably could have done something a little differently to create a little bit more stability. And really, it's also going to take its toll on your muscles. You get tired, and that position is just not comfortable. When you're not comfortable, your body starts fighting against you to get comfortable. And you don't want to have those shakes or have the strain of that discomfort. You're going to transition. You shoot well. As you can see, it's difficult to get in and out of that position as well. So as he's trying to hurry here, he's having difficulty fighting against that position. But he is a phenomenal shooter, so he makes the best of it. He still had a great day, but you can see the frustration is pretty obvious here. He's pretty upset with how that stage went.
All right, you got 5. I'm sorry, you impacted 5 targets.
Let's see what Jim does here. So he's got his rifle rested on the Saracen bag on the top of the chair there. He's got his right knee up. He's got his foot more or less directly under the knee, elbow rests on the knee. Good solid position. About as good as you can do for that height of a barricade. Got a little trouble with his rifle getting it to feed.
I'm going to go medium.
Let's see what he does in the lower portion of the chair. So he's going to use that nice padded chair. He's going to get Indian style. And the one thing I like that he does here that no one else did is he actually brings his bag back into play and puts it in the rear of the rifle. You really couldn't have a more steady rest than this. I mean, you've got 2 awesome supports front and back. He's going to get a lot of stability out of it. I'm really surprised he didn't go for the small target on all 3 of those. So now he's going to transition up here high. What I expect to see him do here is to rest the rifle more or less in the center, which he's done, and then bring up that right knee to support the rear of the rifle, which he does not do. Once again, he's relying very much on his back to sustain this position, which probably isn't the safest bet. Obviously, it works out for him here, but certainly I think if he'd brought up that knee, it would have been a better outcome for him. As we look at this last position here, he does something very smart. A lot of guys are going to put the bag on the sawhorse because it's hard and slick. He's going to opt to rest the rifle right on the sawhorse and then use the bag in the back to support the rear of the rifle, which is going to create an extremely steady rest. So, smart move on his part here. See if I can work out well for him.
Come on!
6 small.
So as you keep watching the end of the video, you actually see us do some coaching with Mark that resulted in him taking the position that he is here. Prior to that, he was taking the teeter-totter position that Greg did earlier as well. So you can see here he's doing it textbook. I mean, look, he's got his foot nice and flat, he's got his calf straight, he's got his knee right above his foot, and his elbow resting on that knee, creating great stability. So kudos to him for being open to the suggestions. This is, I think, his first match, so he's kind of still getting the feel of his rifle and figuring all this crazy stuff out. But he's having a great time and he's learning a lot. So on this next piece, he starts out really well. He puts his rifle in there and he goes to do what a lot of other guys did, which is to go Indian style and then rest his elbows on his knees. But he quickly realizes he doesn't like that position and kind of goes for this modified prone approach. Now structurally this actually ends up working okay for him because he's got that forearm right underneath the rifle. His rifle's resting directly on his hand, and he's got just bone in between him and the ground. The downside is that cannot be comfortable. It's got to be painful to have that elbow drilling directly into the concrete. But it ends up working out for him, partially because he's got his rifle so far forward it's being supported mostly by the chair. So it ends up being a pretty decent option, but definitely not the most comfortable. Now as he goes here, watch what he does. He goes naturally to raising his left knee, which for a right-handed guy is the thing to do. But then he realizes that's not going to work if I'm shooting a rifle, so he raises up his right knee, puts it underneath the elbow. He's got the knee directly above the foot. Foot is flat. Awesome textbook structure here. he took our counsel to heart and did a great job. Now this next position he's going to take, you're going to see the kind of the shortcoming of the bag he's using. If he was using the Warhorse Development Saracen like myself and Jim were, he would have wrapped nicely around that barricade, where this one kind of, he's fighting to keep it up on top. So his position's going to be pretty good here. He's going to get off some shots, but ultimately he's going to run out of time because of the things that happened earlier on. But kudos to him, awesome job on his first match.
This is Brian. You sticking with the same one?
Yeah, go to the large.
Hey, go to the large.
Is it 3 on 8? There's 2 on this one. You're going to transition now. You shoot 2 on this. I'm friendly. You going large? 9 rounds. Mid. Okay. Large. Yeah, I know. Calculate that into your win call.
Oh, we took it.
Shooting 2 rounds. You're transitioning now. You're going to shoot 3 rounds on the next 2. Halfway.
Don't worry. We're not going to be like
Impact.
0. You're not here.
We called it in 3 times.
Transition.
Yeah, just cycle them all
That's good that they pull it out in the powder and it's just a mess. Because it's got a little bit of moisture. So from then on, you know, those little comments apply.
All right, small.
Shaft, you
Okay.
get cut. Throw it over the top of the barrel.
Impact.
Take it down to the rim. Tried it. Didn't make a difference on the shot.
Full forward.
Impact. 3. Good job getting some points on the board. Again.
So as we watch Craig here, this is a good opportunity to talk about why the strong side knee is so important. As you watch him, he's got his left knee up, which is natural for a right-handed shooter, and he's got his left elbow resting on the knee, but the right elbow, which is really supporting the rear of the rifle, is kind of floating out in space. And that's really where that instability comes from. So although he's doing a pretty good job there, and he's got some stability, if he were to bring up that right knee, it'd provide a lot more stability. Right here, he's kind of resting the one elbow on to really benefit from turning his hips a little bit and providing that other right knee to be under that right elbow. But the guy's showing up at a match that's dominated by scopes that have huge magnification, and he's doing the whole match with no optic at all, just a deep sight, and does a crazy good job here. And once again, if you were to bring up that right knee, I think you'd get a little bit better stability, but look at that. I mean, the guy's hitting targets at 100 yards, from a barricade with open sights, in wind, everything else. Just insane. So kudos to you, Craig. I mean, it's crazy, dude. He showed up and killed it, and look at how fast he's going. Pretty amazing.
Alright, you guys are usually pulling it back. I don't know what's going to fit.
45 seconds.
Thanks, man.
Extra gloves this whole time.
I'm off for the
Good work. Pull the back out. Good.
That happens.
Shall we get the target?
I'll land you large.
Okay, I got 4 hits.
For a nominal fee, I can remove that from there.
Large. Impact.
I tried to take it off and my thumb was too cold. I couldn't get the slip
Impact.
and then I stuck it in there trying to fit it. It just wouldn't work. So pull it back out, man. And
Come on. Be a man.
What's the fee now? Give my barrel on it.
kills me to practice this for like an hour out in the desert last weekend. So I had this down. And I don't even know what my score was, probably like 20.
Middle.
Okay.
Video lights.
I got it. Impact. Good work. Clean transitions. 3 rounds. Hanging your bag.
I'm okay at the back here.
Where you going? Middle?
I will do middle.
Kick. 52 seconds.
Imagine you want to light yourself on fire. Please. Nobody thought that was funny at all. I didn't hear wrong with it last night. If I'd have said it about Jim. Win that, maybe?
I'm not sure. Where you going?
Middle again.
Did you put this on yet?
20 seconds. Impact.
Can I switch to little?
Yes, go. Sure.
So if it's a good shot, I'll keep it. If not, you can.
That's it.
Sometimes it'll be off, you can't feel it here.
All right.
You got 25 seconds left.
It's my time.
Minute left, you got plenty of time.
Which freaking bolt one am I on? That's the hunter.
Look at my butt crack is showing.
None of it.
None of it?
I can change that.
That amount.
Woo! 8 on the mark.
Which one are you going for?
Just big.
Okay.
We're both form the
Right hand down. Oh, okay.
dial out if you need to. Here, dial out.
Impact. Hold on back.
There you go. Bolt in.
Barely.
Remember, breathe. Good breathe. Let's go. Bolt down. Dial here, look at me, dial this out.
Go there, Hayden. Good job.
Hit that. Tell me what you're doing, Jeff.
Little.
Little?
Little.
Impact.
Oh, I don't think it's gonna matter. All right. Feel good? Not really. All right, shoot ready. Stand by.
Uh-oh, Jim, I'm going to be short one.
Gonna grab a bullet?
Yeah.
Extra bullets. You going little still?
Yeah.
Three on top. Is that three? Oh, you burned around. That's right.
I got your rounds here.
Oh, no.
Jeff, did you shoot 3 up there?
I don't know, did I?
I know.
I don't believe you did.
Well, you can go back if you have an extra bullet, I guess.
I got 2 extra rounds if you need it.
Another bullet right here, Jeff.
Right here. You can finagle it in with your gloves. I don't know how you're going to do that.
Time. Jeff.
Okay.
Jeff, look at me. You're 2 inches left.
Go.
Because you hurried.
I didn't even feel like I was maybe I did. I mean, I'm with you. I'm not.
You still have 30 seconds.
I did.
Good stage.
Yes.
Go down, go down. Go down to your next position.
Yeah, inside the chair.
There you go.
Good job. Full. Nice.
Alright, ready?
Yeah.
Impact 1.
Impact.
2. Three.
Impact.
4. Time.
My first 2, like, I was trying to predict.
3 rounds on this one, right?
Yeah, 3 rounds on the next. Impact.
Where was the rest of the
5. 6. 7.
So before we close out the video, I want to take a second to talk about this clip. This particular gentleman had never shot an NRL22 match before, and so I took the opportunity to ask him if he wouldn't mind if I gave him a suggestion. I noticed that his position behind the barricade was rather unstable. He was sitting on his foot, and then he had his other leg kind of kicked out and not really providing any kind of stability. It was a really teeter-totter-like position, and one that relied solely on muscle tone and balance in order to keep a steady position. So what I suggested here is that he try to put as much bone structure between the rear of the rifle and the ground as possible, starting with a nice flat foot that's directly under the top of his knee, so having a nice vertical calf, and then taking and placing his elbow right on that leg at some point, and then having that hand be the one that supports the rear of the rifle. By doing that, we're completing a chain of pure bone structure between the rear of the rifle and the ground to provide a lot more stability that's relying as little as possible on muscle tone, because muscles can get tired and they can start to shake, which obviously would not be good when you're trying to hold a gun as still as possible. So this is one of the little tips and tricks that I learned from a great book by Marcus Blanchard about positional shooting. It's absolutely pivotal to have if you're going to shoot any matches. It helps tremendously in that, but also if you're hunting or just for general marksmanship. So I highly suggest the book. I'll put a link in the description for Amazon. It's only $20. Absolutely worth every penny of it. You'll learn a ton from it. And I just thought I'd share a little tip with you guys. So here at SHOT Show 2016.
Got Todd McGee from Dead Air Armament.
Hi, I'm Kelly McMillan.
We're going to give it a shot right now.